Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F122 My Team Career Mode here on the channel. We have made it to the very final Grand Prix of Season 2. I hope you're all having a great day tonight. We are here in Abu Dhabi, ready to scrap it out for one final time before we of course head into the off-season and get a bit of a reset here in the R&D. No regulation changes here in this off-season, so there's nothing going to be drastically changing, but there's certainly going to be some changes as well. You're going to see new liveries next season, some driver transfers, so stay tuned and look forward to the off-season video that will be coming out here in a few days after this one as well, before we actually go into the real season starting in Bahrain for yet another full season here of Formula 1 action in Season 3. So I'm so excited for that. The championship has already been decided here coming into Abu Dhabi in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship back in Mexico over Lewis Hamilton, who's now fighting with Leclerc for the second spot in the standings. However, we are in a direct tie in the standings with Daniel Ricciardo, and we're trying to beat him by a point here tonight to be able to, of course, get ahead of him. And as well, we are also in the Constructors' Championship in a direct tie with Alfa Romeo. So Trackhouse here today trying to beat Alfa Romeo by just getting one more point than them, basically, to actually top them in the Constructors. That money difference, we will absolutely take that 1 point for that extra money here now, as we were getting well underway here in practice. Another storyline here before we jump in towards qualifying in the race. Sergio Perez, his final race in Formula 1. Alpine once again going to need to be looking for a new driver next season. I was having an okay time in practice until this right here. I spun out and absolutely destroyed the rear end of the car, and that actually took us out of free practice one, unfortunately there. So an early exit for myself. We've done that a few times this season as we've wrecked in practice. It's not been good, but I'd rather do the crashing now than do it in the Grand Prix or in qualifying here. As you can see, the free practice 1 results here. Now, Max Verstappen, Alex Albon, I'm not sure why, but those two, they did not set any form of lap time, so not quite sure what was behind that here. Now, as we came through to Saturday evening, ready for some qualifying, some overcast conditions here, as we were ready to get those elbows out for this final qualifying session of the season. When it comes to Abu Dhabi, this is one of my weaker tracks on the F1 calendar. If I'm ever in a title fight here, I hope it doesn't have to be close enough to where I have to come in here and outperform somebody, because this is the last track I want to be able to do that at. Abu Dhabi has never really treated me nice. I was getting into this rhythm lately of getting into Q2, but I was actually expecting the real possibility of not advancing into Q2 here today, unfortunately, from Abu Dhabi. So here we are, though, on our first lap, getting through here relatively well. I made some mistakes here and there. It wasn't a good lap. I knew I had, I would say, at least a half a second extra in the pace in this car, so I was definitely happy when I came through to cross the line and saw where we stacked up briefly around Latifi Albon. So we do the extra lap here, second lap on the same set of tires, that we run right about the half second better than I thought I had, and we briefly went P10. So we would make one final run though, because look at this, we were down to P18 on our final lap in the session, so that was an extreme concern because I wasn't going any faster on this lap. It was barely maybe a tenth faster at times. You can see it right there, about 1/10 of a second quicker, but it's so easy to lose that 1/10 of a second, just as easy as it is to gain that 1/10 of a second. We do get about 2 to now 3/10 of a second. Now half a second again, actually more in the tank than I thought I had. We crossed the line, only P12. Let's see where we end up actually stacking up though, actually, as I decided, you know what, we should probably go for a second lap again, but unfortunately it wasn't going to be much of an improvement because I would go spinning again for the second time this weekend across the line. We go slower, P12 briefly, but unfortunately we would end up out in Q1. Portier advances, but we were the first car out by about a 1/10 of a second, not even. So we are P17 on the grid, unfortunately, for the final Grand Prix of the season. You can see Albon, Zhou Guanyu, Piastri, Latifi, Magnussen join us out in Q1. Disappointing end to qualifying, but let's head to the grid and get ready for the final race of the season.
Welcome to the Yas Marina circuit for the finale of another thrilling Formula 1 season. It's been a breathtaking year, and we end it at a track that's been the scene of many glories and heartbreaks over its history. It's time to end the season in style. It's time for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The drivers will be racing here at the Yas Marina circuit through 16 corners and a lap distance of around 3.28 miles. There are a few opportunities to pass with long straights and DRS zones in 2 places, so plenty of close racing, then plenty of speed and plenty of drama to be found in the laps ahead. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Vettel, Lando Norris and Gasly. Ocon, they've taken a grid penalty. Leclerc, Mick Schumacher and Daniel Ricciardo. Verstappen, Golden Boy, Alex Albon and Théo Pourchaire. Oscar Piastri, Sainz, Nicholas Latifi and Kevin Magnussen. Tsunoda, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Stroll, Joe and Lewis Hamilton rounds off the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Ready to go. Lights out here in Abu Dhabi for the final Grand Prix. You can see quite a bit of extra fuel in the car again. Wasn't really planning to take any out. It's a medium to hard compound tire strategy. And you saw a lot of grid penalties there on the order. So we are now up into 12th place. Max Verstappen with a grid penalty right there. But on their front row, it's George Russell and then Sergio Perez. His final start in Formula 1. What is Sergio Perez willing to do? He has suddenly given himself an opportunity by not taking a grid penalty in a respectable qualifying effort. He now has an opportunity to go and take the lead in turn 1 and maybe take control of this race in his final Grand Prix. If Sergio Perez could just lead 1 lap here today in his final GP, that would be very, very awesome to see. The odds of an Alpine and Perez winning in his final Grand Prix, though, unbelievably unlikely with the pace in that car. Now, it's just going to be 5. Red lights, the lights out, and we are underway. It's a quick release here. Russell is easy ahead of Perez down into turn 1. What's Perez going to do in his final start? He's going to send it up the inside of Russell. Perez is going to come through to take the lead of the Grand Prix here on this opening lap. His final start in Formula 1. It's an absolute banger of a start here. Now to the front goes the Alpine, and there you see Russell settling in behind Sebastian Vettel as well there in 3rd place. Some side-by-side action. Ocon sent one up the inside of one of the AlphaTauri. I believe that was Pierre Gasly there as we went down into the hairpin now, but you can see right here, this is where Perez is going to be under threat here. We know the Alpine is not the best in a straight line, and Russell closing in on the back of Perez, but he's not going to make a move here to the braking zone. In the background, you see Gasly. He's going to run into the back of the Ferrari. His front wheel falls off. The safety car is immediately out on the opening lap, and you can see the onboard. What are you doing, Pierre? He drove right into the back of Bottas. Safety car is out just like that. We gained the only position there because he passed Gasly, who's out of the race. So it was a quick safety car, and just as quick as that safety car came in, we were getting going here already at the conclusion of lap 3. So then it's Perez who's going to be leading the field back to the green flag here from Abu Dhabi. And if you're Perez, that's what you want to see. You probably want as few laps as possible without DRS here in Abu Dhabi if you're in Sergio Perez's position, because that car, it's just not the best car on the grid. It's what I would say, it's in the battle of course, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th area, but we also find Trackhouse and Alfa Romeo all in that battle as well. So we know it's going to be very difficult on Perez to be able to do something here in terms of winning this Grand Prix. Now, as you can see myself, not a great restart for myself here. Albon actually took a peek up the inside, didn't quite have enough for me. Sainz got a little bit out of shape right there as well on the exit of that hairpin here. As you can see, already a second between myself and the driver we're battling for that 1 point in the World Drivers' Championship. Daniel Ricciardo, yellow flags again here on this opening lap. You see debris debris everywhere. It's Esteban Ocon. He's pulling off the circuit. He's going to be out of the Grand Prix. Perez's teammate. It's day over for Ocon. He actually drove into the back of somebody as well. So, of course, it's a very wacky start here to Abu Dhabi here. As you can see, we are closing in now on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, but I make a mistake right there to the braking zone. The rear end kicked out, and then I'm trying to counter steer, trying to save it. We do hold on to it, but the price to be paid was giving up the spot to Alex Albon in the Williams. And I was struggling on pace, and I told you guys that, you know, Abu Dhabi, not the most greatest track for me here on the calendar. I usually struggle quite a bit here in Abu Dhabi, and it was certainly showing here now. But we were sticking with Albon, and we were actually getting a little bit closer to him as the laps were going on again. So it wasn't, you know, a write-off here. Now I was actually thinking I was going to be able to make a move here on Albon pretty shortly if we continue the pace that we were continuing. And sure enough, you know, just focusing on closing up on that DRS on him, especially into the chicane right here in lap 11. This is the closest we would get to him since he has passed us right to that rear diffuser within half a car length. And this should be the opportunity right here. We get the power down really well, and we're already pretty well equalized on speed. DRS open, overtake mode on. It looks like he's doing overtake as well, but it's not going to matter. And we're going to breeze past the outside here of Albon into the hairpin. So making a nice pass right there to move ourselves back briefly into the top 10. Our teammate at tail Porcher just behind, trying to run down Albon. And Albon actually started to lose some pace after I was able to pass him, because not only was I able to make the pass on Alex, tail Porcher, our teammate, he would actually be able to pass him within the few laps, and then he would lose a few positions overall. I believe Carlos Sainz was able to get past him as well. Hamilton as well, he was on the move. He was up now into P12 behind Porcher. So we need to get, of course, 1 point to beat Ricciardo, but it's looking like it's going to be difficult, and we need 1 point for Trackhouse to beat Alfa Romeo in the Constructors. Here on lap 13, I'm kind of doing what Ricciardo's doing. We're coming into the pit lane at the conclusion of lap 13. Porcher, he's going to stay out, and we get right down to that pit speed at the perfect time, just about here. So we're going to come in and put on that hard compound tire. You see Lewis Hamilton behind us. He is closing in closer and closer. This is why when I look behind me and see Lewis Hamilton, that's why I was pretty confident it was going to be hard for me to get points here today in Abu Dhabi there. Now, as we're going to get held for an extra second right there, waiting for the Alfa Romeo of Ricciardo, and look how close Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz are. So Sainz, Hamilton, I think those are two drivers that are going to be able to pass us before this race is over. You see Zhou Guanyu, by the way, with a 5-second time penalty. Not sure exactly what caused that. However, I'm sure he's ready to end this season and focus in on Season 3 and what has been a rough first 2 seasons for Zhou in the Alfa Romeo. I didn't quite have enough tire right now, enough heat in the tire to be able to make a move on Zhou, so I just settled in behind him all the way towards the end of the lap, actually. Here, as you can see, Perez leading the GP into the pit lane there, putting on the hard compound tire, hoping for a smooth stop, and sure enough, he gets a very smooth stop and exits in front of Charles Leclerc, who's trying to overtake George Russell by coming in a lap earlier. Russell's been holding on to P2. As you can see, I have a terrible final corner as Zhou Guanyu comes into the pits. Here goes Lewis Hamilton now. He's going to make a move potentially here down into turn 1. Yes, he does. He peeks up the inside, and I'm not going to fight him too hard, but nearly contact right there with the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Porcher is actually able to come out in front of me because I got caught up behind Zhou Guanyu, but you can see me with the DRS wide open. Look at the pace difference. Absolutely insane. We blow right on past Lewis Hamilton here, and now we're in a fight, of course, to try and get that 1 point. Ricciardo's up in 9th. He's got 2 points right now, so not only is he going to beat me in the World Drivers' Championship, but he's also going to allow Alfa Romeo to beat Trackhouse Racing in the current status, unless Porcher can get up there and pass him here. Now, as you can see, as Hamilton passes me to the braking zone, Porcher is putting the pressure on Daniel Ricciardo, the Australian, and they're wheel to wheel here, and Porcher is eventually going to come out on top of that battle and pass Daniel Ricciardo, as we're going to go in for a little bit of a late race update here. Sergio Perez 1.2 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, but the downside for Perez is Charles Leclerc, now that he has gotten past Russell in the pit strategy, he is closing in on Perez. So Perez looking for a storybook ending and getting a win in his final Grand Prix in Formula 1. It might not be that easy because Leclerc is closing quick, and I can tell you right now, Leclerc, who just won last episode in Brazil, his first win since the Miami Grand Prix earlier in the season, he does not care that Perez needs to or wants to win in his final season. You see Ricciardo as well as Porcher scrapping it out Now, this was this right here was moments before Lewis Hamilton passed me on that back straightaway, as you're now just seeing that here. So you're going to get to see that pass one more time as that moved us down to that 12th position. Just at this point was hoping, please, tail, go and pass Daniel Ricciardo and get away from Lewis. He was absolutely flying right now, but you could see right there I didn't really fight Lewis into the braking zone. But then you had Carlos Sainz here running me down as well, who was now within the DRS. So I was expecting his presence all over my rear diffuser pretty soon here. As you can see, Lance Stroll, Oscar Piastri, his season has been abysmal. He is, I'm sure, maybe even looking elsewhere going into next season now. Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda, and Nicholas Latifi in the bottom 3 currently here as we come to lap 18. And Ricciardo had dropped down to P10. Lewis Hamilton putting some pressure on him. Ricciardo losing pace. He is going to drop out of the points, so that keeps us even right now. As they are going to have the side-by-side battle here. I have the DRS. We got to try and pass Ricciardo. We're going to make it up the inside here, down into the long sweeping left-hander. We get a 2-for-1 special right there. Hamilton as well is going to get the elbows out. He's going to pass Ricciardo, so that is perfect case scenario right there. However, we know we're not going to be able to hold on to P10 because Hamilton's going to be all over us here again momentarily, and we're going to be losing the position, and sure enough, that would happen. Ricciardo was now under pressure from Carlos Sainz. He would lose the spot to him, so Ricciardo losing a lot of pace here late in this Grand Prix with just over 10 laps to go, but we dropped down to P11. So, however, P11 is not going to allow us to overtake Ricciardo on points in the World Drivers' Championship, but in the Constructors' Championship, Pourchaire, who's outpacing me significantly right now, is in good shape to get us in front of Alfa Romeo in the Constructors here. As you can see, now Leclerc has run down Perez. He took a little bit of a look, nearly ran into the back of Perez. However, no luck for him to make that pass here. Now, speaking of passing, here goes Carlos Sainz. He's going to get up around the outside, and he's going to be able to pass me, so we jump down into P12. Ricciardo now down to 14th, Albon 13th. Pourchaire is still holding on to 2 points, but Hamilton and Sainz both closing in potentially on him here as the battles continue. Lap 23, here goes Leclerc up the inside of Perez down into the heavy braking zone. Perez in his final Grand Prix is probably going to fight as hard as he's ever fought to win and get that storybook ending here in Abu Dhabi, retiring at the end of the season. Don't forget it's Sergio Perez, and now Leclerc is not caring whatsoever up the inside. Again, they continue side by side down into the braking zone, nearly clear. If he gets clear, it's game over for Perez. That Alpine doesn't have the pace, but Perez, fighting for his life, is going to be able to stay ahead of Charles Leclerc. Unbelievable driving right there from Sergio Perez, and he stays ahead and keeps the dream of winning his final Grand Prix alive for a few more laps here now. As I was actually settling into my own zone here, I knew I didn't have anything for the cars in front of me, and I was actively watching that track map every single lap, especially in the DRS straight, just seeing what's happening with Perez and Leclerc, just hoping Perez is going to hold on. Lap 27, you can see after their battle that brought George Russell, Sebastian Vettel, Bottas, Verstappen all up in the mix. That might be a good thing for Perez because Leclerc just can't freely send one on the inside of Perez now because he has to make sure that he's going to be able to stay ahead of the cars behind him now. And you can see 2 laps ago he had a look, wasn't enough. Perez now starting the final lap here in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Pourchaire had gotten passed by Lewis Hamilton, however he's still holding on to P10. Sainz does not have enough time to run him down, but Pourchaire was also battling now with Mick Schumacher actually for the 9th position, so he still might get P9 before this Grand Prix is over. One final time though for Sergio Perez down the 2 DRS straights. If he can just hold on, he will be a winner and get that storybook ending. Leclerc directly into the back of him even right there, but Perez holds on for 1 DRS straightaway. He's 50% of the way there, and now he just needs to hang on for the next few seconds here into the sweeping left-hander, and it looks like it is going to happen. Leclerc nowhere close enough to make a move. An unbelievable drive we saw Sergio Perez start on the front row from P2, George Russell on pole. We were wondering, what is Perez willing to do in his final Grand Prix? He sent one of the inside of Russell there. I mean, just full send mode into turn 1, took the lead, took control of this race, defended, fought tremendously against Charles Leclerc here tonight in Abu Dhabi side by side. It wasn't enough from Leclerc. The storybook ending for Perez. He's going to come through in his final Grand Prix in Formula 1 as a winner one more time. Unbelievable drive from Sergio Perez.
This is how we do it, man. We shut our mouth and we work hard. This is the Mexican way. Well done, guys.
You hear Checo on the radio, and for the final time here in Abu Dhabi, working around the final few corners, Pourchaire did pass Schumacher for 9th place. Trackhouse will overtake Alfa Romeo on the constructors. However, we will stay dead even with Daniel Ricciardo in the World Drivers' Championship. A great drive from Pourchaire to get us the constructors points we needed. P12 on the day here in Abu Dhabi. What a night in Abu Dhabi. Lewis Hamilton, driver of the day. Let's see Sergio Perez's final victory celebration.
It's been a roller coaster season, but they can go into the winter with their heads held high after an emphatic victory here today. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
Today's winners make their way up the podium steps. The folks at Alpine have shown once again just what it takes to build a successful Formula One team. A well-deserved win for them.
Alpine gets their first win in this F1 My Team career mode. Perez with, I think that was his third win. He won the United States Grand Prix at COTA last season. Then he went and won his home race in Mexico, and then got a podium in Mexico this season, and then wins here in Abu Dhabi in awesome fashion in his final race. So absolutely awesome scenes right there. Perez goes out a race winner once again in Formula One. What a career for Perez, and here he is on the top step one more time alongside Leclerc as well as George Russell. An absolutely storybook ending right there for Sergio. Now as you see the rest of the finishing order on your screen, and that wraps it up for the season. You see the standings right there, so it does put us ahead of Ricciardo, but still we did tie. I was hoping that we could overtake him by just 1 point there, but it didn't quite happen. Pourchaire does overtake Albon in the standings, and there you see it right there. We still lose out by 1 point to Haas. So close. If we could have got both Trackhouse cars and the points, who knows? We could have got up to P7. However, we do beat Alfa Romeo. And quite a crazy season. We went so far as a team. You know, we were so far behind at the beginning of the season as Trackhouse. And you look back to Baku, that was the highlight of how bad this team was at times. And we have come so far in this season. And now I think we're going to be a genuine threat in Season 3 to be the best of the rest. And then focus in on hopefully get some regulation changes going into Season 4 and be a legitimate threat for a championship. So best of the rest is the goal next season. Hopefully we can get some podiums here and there. That's kind of what I'm hoping. When you're the best of the rest, you know you're going to have a chance for a podium if the racing, if things go right in those races for you and other drivers have issues. So that's kind of the goal. We have a lot of stuff to kind of go over in the off-season video, a lot more going into this off-season than there was in the last off-season, so stay tuned on that. Lots of livery changes. Not every team has a new livery, but a lot of teams do have new liveries. Driver transfers, and we'll see what the new R&D teams or chart looks like for the teams, as well as the off-season or preseason testing in Bahrain. Thank you guys so much for the support here on this Season 2 of this F1 My Team career mode. I really do appreciate it, and in the next season, it's going to be an absolute blast. I can't wait for you guys to see our brand new car. It's going to look quite a bit different from the first 2 seasons, so I'll leave you guys waiting on that one. I'll see you guys in the next one for the off-season video before we kick off Season 3. Thank you for watching one more time, and have a great day, everybody.